I bring you the very warm greetings of President Muhammadu Buhari, who has also asked me to congratulate the governor and the people of Nasarawa State for hosting this 26th edition of the MSME clinics, the National MSME clinics, and the first for the year 2020. I'd like to thank His Excellency the Governor Abdullahi Sule, and the entire government and people of Nasarawa State for the very warm welcome and the hospitality extended to me and to my delegation since we arrived here. I'd also like to thank His Royal Highness, the Emir of Lafia, who had hosted us very warmly earlier. And I'm now the proud recipient of a royal horse, which I intend to take with me all the way back to Abuja. Your Excellency, it is my sincere and fervent wish that your clarity of vision and demonstrated passion for business and for the progress of this state will enable Nasarawa State to become truly the economic powerhouse of your dreams. Last October, you and I and the Honorable Minister of State Science and Technology visited a farm in Nasarawa State, which grew from 3 hectares with 1.5 million naira in 2017, but now occupies 3,000 hectares and is worth 1 billion naira and employing over 300 people. What that tells us is that great things are happening here in Nasarawa State, and that with the support and partnerships that you're creating, greater things will happen. Our expectation is that this 26th edition of the National MSME Clinics, holding here in the state, will provide the further impetus that will give this whole process of creating a business-friendly environment that will grow the state all of what it needs to actually come to fruition. But from what I've seen, from the creative and passionate small businesses that are participating in this clinics, I'm confident that the economic transformation of Nasarawa State is well underway. I want to emphasize that it is important for small businesses to take full advantage of the opportunities offered by the MSME clinics. Just as the MSME clinics provide an opportunity for the federal government's regulatory agencies to inform small businesses about the requirements, their requirements, as well as business procedures, MSMEs are also expected to bring up their own challenges and their problems for possible solutions at this clinic. That is why it is described as a clinic. It's the same as a patient going to a hospital, complaining about whatever their problems are and expecting a solution. It is through these kinds of symbiotic relationship that will be fulfilling the key purposes of organizing these MSME clinics across Nigeria. I'll also urge the Nasarawa State government, in fact, the president and the governor has said as much, to build on the achievements of these clinics by considering, one, the creation of a one-stop regulatory shop for MSMEs in a suitable location in Nasarawa State. Now, this is an office that would house NAFDAC, SON, the Corporate Affairs Commission, and other regulators, bringing them close to the MSMEs in the state. All that you will be required to do is to provide the facility, and the regulatory agencies will provide the rest. Second, the organization of state versions of the MSME clinics in various local governments of the state. This will help the state's regulatory agencies also to key into the spirit and letter of the MSME clinics. Already I see that the Nasarawa State government has incubation centers for growing business initiatives. This is excellent indeed, and it will work very well with some of the initiatives of the MSME clinics. On our part at the federal level, we are also keen on establishing shared facilities, and this we've established about 2 so far, and we intend to establish them across the country, wherever we find a willing state. The purpose of these shared facilities is to provide MSMEs with world-class business equipment in various commercial clusters. So for example, a shoe manufacturing cluster, we will provide equipment that would ordinarily have been too expensive for an individual shoe manufacturer to buy for his own business. We will buy the equipment so that many of the shoemakers or the shoe manufacturers will be able to use that same facility, because each of them, of course, or the individuals will not be able to provide their own. With such an arrangement in place, MSMEs are spared the financial burden of having to buy their own equipment, especially the expensive equipment, in order to be able to do business. Where possible, such shared facilities will be run on an economically sustainable basis, and we would expect that we will be able to pre-certify all of those shared facilities, so that the regulatory agencies that the small businesses need to go to wouldn't have to bother about that, because we would have pre-certified them ahead of setting up the shared facilities. The inspiration for the establishment of shared facilities arose from our interactions with the MSMEs during past national editions of the MSME clinics. Apart from the challenges that they face from regulatory agencies, another recurring problem is that small businesses across the country are not able to access production and operating equipment. And this is where we thought it would be important to set up some of these shared facilities for their benefit. Let me say also that the federal government is aware of the various regulatory challenges facing small businesses, and in some cases, even the harassment and extortion by government functionaries at different levels. We'll be working within the ambit of the National Economic Council to address some of these issues. And we've been addressing some of these. We've actually raised some of these issues at the National Economic Council. But meanwhile, I can give the example of how several agencies, like the Corporate Affairs Commission and the Bank of Industry, have taken the opportunity of the clinics to improve their offerings to small businesses. We're also working assiduously with the leadership of NAFDAC, SON, and CAC to see that MSMEs get faster, cheaper, and more efficient services from those agencies. The era of the expensive and time-consuming NAFDAC certification will soon be over. I'm sure that you're also well aware of the federal government's fresh initiatives at creating a more favorable environment for small businesses. The first is in the gradual reduction in interest rates through some of the modifications that we're seeing that the CBN has done on restrictions to access to treasury bills and the modifications to the open market operations of the CBN, which has brought fixed income yields down to between 5 and 6%. That has helped greatly in reducing interest rates for commercial loans. So we expect to see that interest rates for commercial loans will go down gradually, and very soon we might even be able to get sub-10, might be able to get single-digit interest rates for commercial loans. The second are the new incentives under the Finance Act. The Act, that's the Finance Act, which, as you know, the President just signed into law, exempts small companies with a turnover of 25 million a year. Any company that has a turnover of less than 25 million a year is now exempted from paying income tax, company's income tax. So any company, the small companies, all of the small companies do not have to pay corporation tax because their turnover is less than 25 million. companies that have a turnover of between 25 million and 100 million a year will now pay companies income tax at a lower rate of 20%. That is almost 10% off what the rate used to be. Another business-friendly provision which is in the Finance Act is the granting of tax credits to companies for early filing of their tax returns. So if you're a company, especially a mid-range company that has to pay tax, and you file your tax returns early, you can actually get as much as a 2% discount on your tax just for filing your tax returns early. Larger companies get 1% discount on their tax or tax credit. Perhaps the most publicized aspect of the Finance Act is the new VAT rate, the value-added tax rate, which has gone up from 5% to 7.5%. Many people have said, oh, this is a higher tax burden on the consumer, and of course, it has implications for those who are trading as well. But we must remember that this is still one of the lowest, in fact, it is the lowest VAT rate in the whole of Africa. While it is true, for instance, that Ghana has reduced its VAT rate, Ghana's VAT was 15%. They reduced it to 12.5%. Ours is 7.5%. It's also important to mention that companies, again, the small companies, MSMEs, with a turnover of less than 25 million, do not have to register for VAT. In other words, they are not, their businesses are not VATable. They don't have to register for VAT. So that way, it is possible, the government has worked out a way of not creating any extra burden for small and medium-sized companies. In addition to that, in order to reduce the impact of VAT, the VAT increase on consumers, several basic items such as food, drugs, and educational items are exempted from VAT. So there is no payment of VAT on food, on drugs, and on educational items. And then there's another upside to the increase in VAT, and this is that additional revenue will now go to the states from VAT. So the states now will be able to earn additional revenue. Now that revenue is so important for the states so that they can do, among other things, at least begin to pay the new minimum wage. This way, it will improve consumer spending as well, and it works very well for everyone. So I think that despite the increase in VAT, there are so many inbuilt advantages for small businesses. Now I believe that small businesses can take advantage of the new provisions of the Finance Act in order to make their businesses even grow better. In closing, I wish to congratulate again the Nasarawa State government for organizing such a successful MSME clinic, and also to commend all the participating MSMEs for making use of the opportunities given to them by this clinic. I urge all of the MSMEs that are present to ensure that they present themselves during this year's 3rd National MSME Awards. This year's National MSME Awards, I urge you to participate in it, present your products for the award. The prizes this year are bigger and better than last year. Of course, the competition for such rewards will also be keener. The intention this year is to have an MSME week with several activities climaxing in the MSME Awards. The President is determined to create a Nigeria in which small business owners are nurtured and encouraged to thrive and prosper. Our first responsibility as regulatory agencies of the government is to support their growth or enable them as best as possible. So I'd like to thank the Governor again and all of you for this very successful outing, and to look forward to hearing about the success stories that emerge from this activity. At this point, I also have a very pleasurable duty to perform, which is to inaugurate the Nasarawa State Enabling Business Environment Council. As you know, Mr. President, President Muhammadu Buhari, had established the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council to do all that would be necessary to ensure that businesses have the best environment to flourish and to prosper. I'm privileged to chair PEBEC, which is the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council, and we have Dr. Jumoke Oduwole here, who is the Special Advisor to the President and who is also the Secretary of PEBEC. But the work of creating an enabling business environment cannot be done without the states. The states do the very best when they also set up their own enabling business environment councils. And this is what Governor Abdullahi Sule has done. He has also set up the Nasarawa State Enabling Business Environment Council, and he has taken it upon himself to chair that council so that the council works in synergy and in collaboration with the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council. So it's my very special pleasure, first to invite the governor to join the Nasarawa State Enabling Business Environment Council for the formal inauguration. So I will formally inaugurate this Nasarawa State Enabling Business Environment Council, led by His Excellency the Governor of Nasarawa State, Engineer Abdullahi Sule. I inaugurate the council for the benefit of the people of Nasarawa State and to the glory of God. God bless you. Thank you very much.